All right, real happy to have the next gentleman on the Sports Card Shop guest line. He's back on the show. Has been on the show before, but when I knew he was coming back, I looked when he was the last time he was on, and it was November of 2020. I was a little bit shocked by how long it's been. So long overdue, but welcome back to Sports Card Nation, Ivan Lovegren, mostly known as Watch the Breaks on Twitter, and doing something new now too that we're definitely going to talk about. But welcome back.
Hey, John, thanks for having me. Wow, what an intro. I'm like, I'm ready for the feature to start. Uh, that's an awesome new intro, man.
Yeah, thank you.
Spellbinding. But yeah, as you the general Sports Card Nation podcast intro blew me away. On the
Yeah,
personal intro, yeah, basically it's however much time you take is how much longer you have to wait to come back on the podcast. So last time we talked so much that it was 2 episodes, so I think it's fair
yeah, we
that
did it. And listen, that's how good it was. We had to make we had to do a sequel. It wasn't good enough for just one show. We had to do two. But
yeah.
like
Well,
I
and the
said,
bummer is I missed Atlantic City last year because I was in the
yeah,
midst of some personal nothing bad, just a lot of transitions.
yeah.
Were you in Atlantic City?
I was, which was nice for me, Ivan, because it's driving distance, five and
Oh
a half
yeah.
hours. My wife actually went. She didn't go to the national itself, but she went to the beach and with a book and a beverage and an umbrella and enjoyed that aspect while I was at the convention center. So it
That's
was
awesome.
nice to drive because, as you know, when you drive, you can bring more stuff and all that good stuff and kind of travel at your own pace and at your own schedule. So with Chicago this year, it'll be back on the plane. But
Yeah.
I at this point I try to get to all the nationals while I can. I don't know how many I'll have left in my lifetime, so got to get them in when you can. And I'll never catch up to Dr. Becker, who's been to everyone that's ever happened. So,
That's
but
okay. The hobby's not about comparing, John. It's just about doing your
no,
best
you're right.
job.
You're right. No, I
But
know.
that's what
I'm
that was
just
going to be my
kidding.
follow up. So I will see you in Chicago this year, at
Yeah,
least.
yeah,
Okay.
God willing, I'll be there and look forward to again seeing you in person. So, man, it's been over 2 years since you've been on. Again, I can't believe that. Lots has changed. Let's start. You're a dad again. You with your third son. You have twin boys, and now six more. Ivan, and you got the Cubs starting lineup, future starting lineup.
What did I just say about comparisons? I'm done. Three is good.
Yeah,
I, yeah.
but
Yeah. So I had a kid last year. So that's number three for us. And also you may notice if you're on the video podcast, my background's a little different.
yeah,
We migrated. So I'm much closer to Chicago now. We
yeah.
migrated across the country from Los Angeles, where I was before. And now we have a home in Omaha, Nebraska. So I'm broadcasting from my office that still has not been unpacked, even though it's been 5 months.
Yeah. Talk a little bit about that. LA to the Midwest. That's it's a different, different culture, lifestyle, so to speak. I mean, you're originally from the Midwest, if I'm not mistaken. So it's not uncharted territory, but talk about the difference in living in both areas. Like probably the adjustment isn't as bad because you're familiar with it already. But even like for your family or your kids too that were made me not know it in the same way you do.
Yeah, well, actually, honestly, I think for the kids it's been easier because there's so much new for them to
Yeah,
experience. And it's just different. In LA, we were in an apartment. Like
yeah,
if the door opened once we had kids, it was like panic. Like
yeah,
what the kids aren't trying to go outside, right? Like
yeah,
we had cars going 45 miles per hour up and down our street every 30 seconds. Whereas here, they actually go outside. They play with kids in their backyards, those types
yeah,
of things. Um, so I think for them, it's been absolutely fine in that regard. Um, Now it's funny because I got asked this for 15 years living in LA. I always got asked, "Oh, what was it like coming from Nebraska?" And like I'm a city guy. Like we live in Omaha. You know,
yeah,
the honestly the difference in moving to LA was even with the traffic, everything was closer. I had two great movie theaters literally within 1.5 miles either direction of me. Whereas in Omaha, the nearest great movie theater is 8 miles away. Now that
Yeah.
8 miles is 10 minutes. That 1.5 miles was 10 minutes.
Yeah.
But like, so there's a lot of similarities in that regard. And it's nice to be close to family. And again, have that, like the kids can open the front door without me being like, they're going to die and get kidnapped and
Yeah.
all that, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, no doubt. And I'm a New York City guy, so I know all about
Yeah.
how long it takes to go short distances.
But you're not in the city
Sometimes
now though, either, right?
no,
You've
I'm in
migrated.
central New York in Syracuse, yeah. So, but yeah, I get the city thing. It's nice having stuff close to you. It's always kind of a convenience. Let's start off with Go GTS Live. You were there for many years, and obviously not now. Kind of talk about what happened. I know you said you were recently just back on in the guest seat, if you will, but
Yeah.
I miss you. I miss you.
I know.
I know I speak for many others when I say that. Not exactly the same without Ivan Lovegren, and I don't mean any disrespect to Rob and Chris, but it's when you're used to someone in the seat and then they're not. It's different. I don't care, especially if you like them. If you don't like them, maybe it's different in a
Yeah.
good way. But when
Rooting
you
for
like
my
somebody,
demise.
yeah. But when
The
you like
show's so
someone,
great. It's great now. You're
yeah,
missing out. I haven't watched it. Yeah, no, so I was just absolutely blessed to be able to co-host Go GTS Live with Rob Bertrand for 7.5 years, over 100 episodes, um, maybe over 200 episodes. Yeah, because we were doing it weekly. We did a lot of episodes. Um, the Basically, as last year, as we were getting close to moving, having the new baby, knowing all this was coming in the pipeline, it was like I just had something had to give somewhere in my personal life, and that was one of the things. And even now, like my wife, who loves Rob and loved everything with it, but still, if I'm like, in my new role, hey, I have to record a podcast tonight, she's like, is it going to be 3 hours? I'm like, no, it's like a 20-minute interview. She's like, oh, okay. So yeah, so having those Thursday nights back with her is very helpful now that we've got the third mouth and the third. Going from 2 to 3 is tough.
yeah,
Like that's a tough transition, and maybe that's just because we were used to 2 because we got 2 out the gate. That 2 wasn't as
yeah,
tough, but it definitely is tough going from 2 to 3. So it's been helpful. And like you said, and I told you before the show, yeah, I was just in Vegas for the Mint Collective this past weekend. Really great event. I hope you can make it out for the next one, John,
yeah.
because it's a great event.
It's on my list. It just the bad thing about it, Ivan, it's not for lack of desire. It's just it's during the school year, and it
Oh
starts
yeah,
kind of during the week. It's tricky. There's
yeah.
going to be one year I
They got to
just say, you
schedule
know
it on
what?
spring break. That's what they got to
Yeah,
do.
yeah, yeah. Or I just have to say, I do get time off, but I just have to kind of say, hey, I'm out. We're a little short. Honestly, we're a little shorthanded at my school, like staff wise,
Yeah,
or otherwise I probably would at least considered it more if that wasn't the case. But so when we get a year where we're look like we're stronger staff wise, I'll definitely put in for a couple days and
yeah,
make the trip. And it looks like it's going to be an annual event. I mean, you sense that
yeah.
being there.
Um, I do. It'll be interesting to see how it iterates next year because I heard rumors that they may try to do it somewhere a different location.
Okay.
But I brought it up specifically because Go GTS Live was broadcasting live from there, and Rob invited me. Said, "Hey, make sure you come by, and we'll get you on the show." And we had a good 20-minute interview on the show. So check their channels for that. If you enjoy any of what you hear today, make sure you check
Yeah,
out Go
there you
GTS
go.
Live's channels for
Do
more
you miss?
Ivan.
Yeah, do you miss it? I know you said it works, but with your wife, you spend more time in your family. But the show itself and being do you miss it? Is there
Oh, of
some
course, it was so
Thursdays you
fun.
can?
Yeah, it was
Yeah,
fun. It was, able to keep me tuned into all the products, not just the top 3, Like there's the
Yeah.
top three that everybody's breaking that week, but it's like, oh, there's all
Yeah.
the products. Um, it Rob's a great guy. James, who's behind the scenes, is a great guy.
Yeah.
So I miss the weekly conversations and bickering with Rob. It's always fun coming in with different opinions, and just having a place to talk like this every single
Yeah.
week. So, yeah, no, I miss it. But just like, you miss when you move from a place that has good sushi and you miss the sushi.
Yeah. Speaking of moving, has moving back to the Midwest, has it changed your approach to the hobby or how you hobby at all, or not really? It's just that's where you live.
Yeah, it hasn't really changed my approach to the hobby since everything I do is online e-commerce directed anyways. Um, I will say it's been the I wouldn't say it's a change in my approach, but it's a change in what I have time for. I'm able to get out to card shows again,
Yeah.
and that is fun. I actually took a little drive with a buddy of mine, Mike, to the Iowa Card Show 2 weekends ago, in Des Moines,
Yeah.
um, hosted by Brian Eikenberry. Does a great job there. And again, previously, even also with Go GTS, like at the National, I wouldn't have time to stop and browse a box for 45 minutes trying to find little hidden gems. And this show, I was able to browse a box for 40 minutes and found things like, Disney cards are super popular right now. Well,
Yeah.
nobody's
Oh yeah.
talking about like last year, and 2 years ago, Upper Deck had Disney cards,
Yeah.
and I was able to find some of those as little gems in things that I would never have had time for before.
Yeah.
And I'm actually setting up at a local show, very modest setup,
Yeah.
in a couple weeks. So again, something I would never have had time to do, just the most random
Yeah.
$1, $2 cards.
Yeah. Well, that's the fun, right? The hunt for what you can find. That's a classic. That's an iconic card.
Yeah, what's funny about this card? So they
It's
can't
for
see it
those.
if they're on the
Yeah,
podcast.
it's the 19 for those listening. It's the 1990 score. Bo wearing his football shoulder pads and holding the bat behind his head, and it's the big bo on the backside.
Yeah, but yeah, the bow nose.
Yeah.
And so on the back, though, this is something cool about finding this card. I actually didn't own one, and I had forgotten in the years
Yeah.
since, but that the back that they did the B in royal blue and the O in Raider black. So
Yeah.
it's even on the back, it's still a tribute to
You know
like
what?
the
Here's
dual
the
sports.
crazy. Here's the crazy thing, Ivan. I've owned that card multiple times. Sold it, owned it. I know about it. Right? I never. I until you just said that. I didn't realize the color scheme.
Yeah, yeah. It's
Like
like
I've
so.
looked
It's
at it a million times and it just didn't. It didn't click. But you're right. The royal blue and the black for the Raider.
yeah. So
Yeah, that's
I guess that is a bit of a change to habits, a little, but it just doesn't feel like it's not like I've gone from like slabbed cards to like or switched grading companies or something, like. But it is cool that I get to get out to shows a bit more, and the shows have more approachable items.
yeah. So are you at the national? Are you gonna like go by Rob and those guys and say, "Aha, I'm going to look around and have fun at the show"? You're gonna do the little Bronx cheer to him, and I'm kidding, but
Yeah,
it will be different, like you said, that you're not because I know in talking to you at prior nationals. I'll ask you like, did you get to walk the floor? And you're like, no, John, I've really been kind
I'm like
of
from
this.
the door to here. Do you see
Yeah.
that? That's the route I've been able to take. Yeah.
Yes.
Where's the bathroom? Uh, I've
So to
walked
be a
there.
little different for you, be a little different, and a
Yeah,
little more freedom as far as that goes, and that's not a bad thing. So, I'm looking forward to seeing you there, and even in that role, we probably could even talk a little bit more because
exactly.
you're not on a tight schedule.
Yep.
Uh, you got three boys. Your one is younger, and you got your twin. Are they showing interest in cards because Daddy does, or and what you do? Or are they at that
So
point?
so they aren't showing interest in cards, but I have one son who is a collector of the twins, really, the
Yeah,
youngest. is just too young. I think part of that might be just because, different from when I was a kid. When I was a kid, we had, I'm going to sound old here, but we had 15 television channels. So I'm
Yeah.
not as old as we only had 4 television channels. We had 15 when I was first a kid, but among those was WGN.
Yeah.
And among those was, NBC and CBS, which had football on Sundays. So we watched a lot of sports from the time I was, 2, 3, 4 with my dad. Well, I watch sports, but I watch them streaming from my iPad, which can happen after my kids go to bed if I'm watching an F1 race, or, a soccer match is at 1:30 in the day on a weekday while they're at school. Um, and so it's not the same as like my dad who would religiously watch
Hmm.
things. And honestly, I haven't watched Sunday football in a long time because we're just always too busy. So I think my kids don't have the same love of sports that I did growing
Yeah.
up. So I think that kind of impacts it. While again, my one son, he will say like, "This is my collectible." He'll build a Lego that like looks like a statue or something and say, "This is my collectible," or like 6 different types of like Lego block formations that kind of have a theme or a similar look,
Yeah.
and he'll say, "This is my set. These are my collectibles." So he is intrigued by things that I have that are like I've got a gold Batmobile from an expo that's around here somewhere. I've got like an Andre the Giant figurine.
Yeah.
So he's intrigued by collectibles, but just doesn't necessarily love cards
Yeah,
yet.
yeah,
So
yeah. That's the key word, right? That's
yeah,
So I listen. I've been doing this a long time, and I started when I was 7. So, and it was just a chance going into a corner store with my grandfather and saw the packs. He bought some and for me, and the rest is history.
yeah.
So,
I think
uh,
one of the things I'd want
yeah,
to do actually, it hit me at the Mint this last weekend, is like kind of the next, maybe the national, maybe even before then, but like take them with me to a show.
yeah,
Like actually take them on a trip or take them to a show. I think that would be interesting and fun, and maybe they'd have more fun that way, um, because there's some really cool experiences
yeah,
tied up in that. So we'll see if that gets them into actually loving the sport and collecting. But they also, it's crazy. They do so many things. They play outside. They
yeah.
build Legos like crazy. So sorry, I don't know if this is the sports kids nation podcast.
Well, I'm a big
This is
kids.
why we
Yeah,
always
and
go 2 hours on these
yeah.
things.
Well, I'm a big kids in the hobby thing, so I always care and ask, and there's more to just the hobby, right? There's the stuff that happens behind the scenes that I care about. So that's
Mhm,
where that question came from. Let's talk about what you're doing now. You're with it's ISO.
mhm.
It's a selling platform. I did check it out before, so I had some background to talk about it. Talk about
I was gonna say you
how
should have
you.
checked it out well before, John. How do
I
we get you
know,
on there
I
checking
know.
stuff out?
Well,
Wh-
here's the problem with
What do you
content
collect, John?
creation. I collect graded Hall of Fame rookie cards. So
Okay, that's a nice
of various
focus.
sports. Yeah, a little more expensive sometimes too,
Yeah.
but talk about how you got involved, what it is, what you do, all that good stuff, and then I obviously have some questions for you, but kind of lay the baseline here for those listening. How it became something you're involved in, and what it is, obviously.
Yeah, absolutely. So I got incredibly lucky. So I was living in LA, as I mentioned, and there's this team of people that work together at Snapchat. And they were like, one was like head of product, head of design, head of engineering. They all worked together, and they saw some trends in overall commerce and social commerce, and they had this idea for a website, and they went out and built it with a world-class team of engineers and designers. And one of them followed me on Twitter, and he said, "Hey, you're in LA, we're in LA, let's get coffee." So absolute fortuitous, like can't replicate that, and so grateful and blessed for that. So they pitched me this idea because I had the Twitter following, and there's kind of like 3 parts to what created ISO. The first is that they saw how social media was being bootstrapped into commerce and transactions. So whether that's Facebook groups or a Discord buy sell trade channel or a Twitter stack sale, they saw that and they said that's really cool how communities come together and do that. There's also a lot of inefficiencies in the system. I wonder if we could help that. Second, side by side to that, they saw all the platforms that were springing up, post-COVID hobby boom, and that so many of them were, instead of meeting the audience where they were, it was like, okay, bring your whole audience over here. So you're a breaker and you're big on YouTube. Okay, now download this app and make your entire audience download this app. It's like, well, why can't we take that and bring it to YouTube? Where the audience already is. Why can't we bring it to the Facebook group where they already are? And then third was that they also saw that the way that all those platforms work is sort of their selling proposition is we bring you buyers, but those buyers either come at a really high acquisition cost, or really the secret acquisition cost is they find people that have an audience and they get them to migrate the audience onto the app. But then they take their audience and they spread it to everyone else.
Yeah.
So as an example, I've downloaded every app in the hobby because I always have one friend who's selling on it. Like one friend's like, hey, I'm going live here, download it. Yeah, sure, I'll join. I support you. And the minute that they stop, I get notified someone else is live. Or in the morning, I wake up to a notification, something else is going on. They're constantly trying to peanut butter the users. So combine those three things together, and this team said, well, what if we just built the best place or engine for people to build a community? And we kind of bet big on that. We bet big on if we give you all the tools, you'll want to build your community here, because we're not going to take your community and spread them out to that one and that one and that one. Yeah. And we're going to give you tools to take, basically like live video selling, live video auctions. Those are just a tool. They don't need to be an entire platform. It's a tool. Auctions. Everybody thinks, oh, we got to go to eBay for auctions. Well, that's just a tool. You can build that pretty easily. It's not easy, but when you're at their level, you can build it. So that's how ISO was born. And that's why if you go to ISO, you'll actually see, you can find communities. If you go to iso.gg/explore, or if you're a new user just logging in on the homepage, you'll see it's organized by community. So the idea is that you'll join, one or two or three communities that really fit your interest, and anybody with a community can spin up a marketplace for that community. So they pitched this to me, and I said, okay, that's cool. And I went home and I couldn't stop thinking about it. And I thought, this is bigger than just me spinning up a marketplace and testing it. So I came back, and in our second meeting, I started exploring like, hey, how can we scale this? How are you planning to build this? And ultimately it turned into a strong relationship where they brought me on for consulting. And then they brought me on part-time, and then I was able to go full-time. So now I'm the category lead for sports and collectibles. So basically I help all of our marketplaces and communities onboard sellers underneath them. And that's the other defining feature. Sorry, I'll wrap the pitch in just a minute.
No, you're good. No, you're good.
So let's say, John, that you wanted to go on there and sell, and you created the Sports Card Nation marketplace. So on ISO, you're not just a profile. On every other platform, no matter how big you are and how many followers you have, you're still just a profile. Mm-hmm. On ISO, you're a marketplace. And what that means is other people can apply to sell in your marketplace.
Okay.
So you've got, your 10 best colleagues. You can invite them to list in your marketplace, and they can build a robust marketplace all together, because you're not going to have enough stuff to sell on your own, maybe, or even if you are, you don't have the time to scale beyond. Yeah. Everybody has a limit of what they can actually list. Yeah. However, your reach is infinite, right? You've got a podcast, you've got a YouTube, you've got social media. Is there value? Like if I was just trying to sell on my own, Would that be better, or would it be better if I was part of the Sports Card Nation marketplace and that's where I was
Hmm.
selling, or that's where I was breaking or doing those things? So if you look at like our top marketplace right now, Midwest Box Breaks, they have over 200 sellers in their marketplace. And something I do on demos that's fun is because basically, if you want to compete with the big boys, you have to have what people are looking for. So I'll ask somebody, I'll be on ISO in the Midwest marketplace, and I'll say, okay, give me a random team. I'm not even going to stack the deck in my favor. And they'll say,
Yeah.
Cleveland Guardians.
Yeah.
And I'll type Guardians in the search bar and we'll get, 60 results, 80 results. And it's like, see, you can actually browse your favorite team, your favorite player. It's not like there's 10 cards listed there. There's over 4,000 cards listed in their marketplace right now. And that's just their marketplace.
Yeah. What like you mentioned, like other people can come into your marketplace, but you have to allow that, right? You have to grant permission. Like
Yeah.
someone can't. Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
because
I just
the whole,
wanted.
so getting back to the like what they saw with trust commerce and social commerce, that's the idea. Is like if you're in a Facebook group with 2,000 people, but you really trust them, you're all talking the same time, somebody posts something for sale, you feel a certain measure of security buying it from them because of that trust. Well, this is a way to expand that platform, but you're still gating who's selling based on your name and your trust.
Yeah.
So yeah, you definitely don't want to just open it up to anybody. If you're a marketplace owner, you want to curate it based on your brand and your your trust level, because that trust is being passed on to your audience, who now become community members instead of just audience members.
Yeah. This brings me to the question, Ivan. Right. I'm not going to mention names. People can connect the dots. We've seen other platforms have some unscrupulous behavior happen, even really specifically with breaks where stuff goes off screen, something that should have probably went to a consumer doesn't make its way there. I'll call it what it is. That's theft. That's stealing. And obviously the hobby community gets in an uproar, as they should, right? That's just wrong. And I don't believe in watchdogs. I believe we're all kind of watchdogs together.
Mhm.
And so that's obviously kind of publicity a site would not want. Do you vet like people who are on ISO? Is there a vetting process so to maybe avoid that as much as you can before it becomes an issue?
So yes and no. There is a vetting process. I will say it's a little bit light, because really at the end of the day, ISO is not like, I don't want people to think of ISO as like this like closed platform.
Yeah.
ISO, our goal is to be more like a Shopify, where we are really just an engine that powers whatever social commerce you're doing.
Hmm.
And even if you think about eBay, like eBay has policies for selling and policies for buying, but eBay is not doing background checks before they authorize you as a seller. Like eBay is democratic, like this
Yeah.
is America, John. So I want anybody to be able to sell. Now, the difference is that ISO, part of why we're lower fee than those other platforms is because ISO is relying on you and your community. So we shouldn't have somebody come on, like they're not going to screw the ISO community. They're going to screw their own community if they do that. And we would of course have repercussions. We would of course, we've actually got a pretty strict like auction cancellation policy. Like you can't cancel an auction, and if you simply don't fulfill shipment on it, you're booted. Like auctions need to have integrity.
Yeah.
So, and then same thing, like if you're live and you do something that defrauds, I mean, like what you said, that's theft.
Yeah.
Like that's
Yeah.
that's not even like, we don't need to him and haw about it. That's
Yeah.
theft, or fraud. The lawyers can get the exact definition, but like
Yeah.
if somebody buys into your break and then you hide an item, like that's not even about a platform. That's
Yeah. It's
criminal.
not debatable whether that's right or wrong. It's
Yeah.
wrong.
So we would
It's,
lay the hammer down. But the
yeah.
idea more so is like, you're not going to have people, you're not going to get a notification that somebody's live on ISO that you have not signed up to get, like, that you're not part of their community, you know?
Yeah.
So it shouldn't be an issue with unknown people just jumping on and then defrauding people, because ISO's community based. So you have to be in a community in order to make it work. And without the community, it's not going to work.
Yeah.
So, and again, that's one of the differences, and why like Midwest is one of my favorite examples, because he's just absolutely bought into the idea. And what's cool is, in a world that's so focused on greed, by a world, like, I mean, the hobby,
Yeah.
greed, I can't give up margin, I can't give up, anything to anybody else. What ISO's allowed him to do is actually not stream 24/7, because he's been able to look at his community, which is very tight. He's got a great
Yeah.
Discord, a really great Twitter, and find other breakers who fit the values of his community. No flow cards, zebra
Yeah.
breaks, bow tie breaks. And he allows them slots in his marketplace.
Yeah.
So Thursday night, no flow is going live. Tuesday night, zebra's going live. Saturday and Monday, I think bow tie is going live. But Midwest is okay with that, because it keeps his community tied into trusted people. Instead of like, hey, Tuesday, I really want to rip something, and Midwest is dark, I'm going to go swipe left, swipe right, spin the wheel, where'd everything go? So
Yeah.
he's building a house for his community to live in, that he's comfortable with, that they're comfortable with, that fits the values. And so it's an incentive to join that community, is like, oh, there's an entire lineup that fits my values. It's not
Yeah.
just Ben. So that's what we're trying to build. And it manifests itself in different ways. There's, Midwest Box Breaks Marketplace. And then there's the Disneyana Marketplace, which is 100% Disney items, whether it's
Yeah.
cards or, memorabilia, any of those types of things. There's someone that's built that up. So the audience there is just 100% tied into Disney. So you can build around a niche. John, I want you to build the graded Hall of Fame rookies marketplace, and only have
Well,
those
see,
for
I don't
sale.
sell that. I don't always sell that stuff. It would be not a good marketplace. It'd be like, hey, look what I'm not selling. But
Be a gallery.
you answered,
Yep.
yeah, you answered my follow up question in your response, that if someone was to do something not above board, you have protocols in place to reprimand them, like you said, repercussions, and handle it, so it doesn't become a long term issue. And that was good to hear, because that was my next question.
Yep.
When you were approached, Ivan, there's no shortages of selling platforms. Were you, did you was that something you thought about? We've seen a couple go down, to mention a couple, Dibs and Star Stock, and others, as sort of the hobbies kind of reset itself and come down off that boom. Is that something you thought about? Were you concerned with it, or was all there what they wanted to build and create? Obviously was enough. Like, hey, I'm behind this.
Well, yeah. So I was behind it, mainly because, at risk of alienating our audience at all, the really cool thing about it is it's bigger than the hobby. So if you go on our website now, we've also already expanded, since we launched last fall, really. We've already expanded into collectibles that are not cards. So we've got, like I said, the Disney marketplace is kicking. We've got a couple TCG marketplaces. We've got a Bear Bricks marketplace. If you're familiar with those art things, they're like high end Funkos. I mean,
Yeah.
they're not like Funkos, but it's similar, of like, like that's
Yeah.
um, and we've got fashion marketplaces that are spinning up now. There's a me in fashion. There's a community lead for fashion. And again, the idea, and this is what really appealed to me and why I was like, oh, I need to build this, is it's for any community. And I love building communities. That's what my Twitter I've been trying to do for years, is just build up the hobby community.
Yeah.
Um, But when I was in finance, I was always trying to build the community of our financial firm. Like everywhere I've been trying to build community. In LA, I was part of the Rotary Club, and focused on membership and helping build the community in Los Angeles of Los Angeles and to give back to Los Angeles. So for me, this is awesome because somebody could go on ISO. You could spin up the Syracuse buy local community on ISO.
Mm-hmm.
You could spin up the like I said, the graded Hall of Fame rookies. Honestly, it would still be a good marketplace, John, because remember, you don't need to sell yours.
Yeah.
But if you
But
could
someone else
curate people
can.
that are selling them, like say yours, you're like, they got to be a PSA 5 or better. Well, if you have friends with PSA 3s that you're not going to buy, but it could be a really cool destination and site, and marketplace to just easily search for those things. So you can spin up a marketplace around anything. And
Mm-hmm.
so that was what was really big about ISO to me is, again, the idea is it's an engine where you can take live video selling and bring it to Facebook. And someone is able to say, you hold an item up and you say, hey, grab this, and they type claim, and whoever types claim first gets it
Yeah.
automated. It's not because I'm
Yeah.
checking it and following up. In fact, actually, John, there's one other marketplace that I feel like you need to know about. Um, do you know about signatures for soldiers?
Oh yeah, man. Tim and I are very good friends, and I always he's on the show at least once or twice a year, and we preview what he's doing. We do like the Jerry Lewis Tiffany, right? What he's up to, like how
Yeah.
what's the total, what the grand total is, and as you well know, Tim's a great guy, and that's a great organization, and I come sort of from a military family, so it's a little nearer and dearer to maybe my heart. But I don't care who you are, right? What they do is tremendous, and as you know, Tim doesn't take a paycheck. That's all out of the kindness of his heart and him and his wife, and even Eric Norton's on the board, and
Mhm.
so it's I always get involved. I always have them on, and you know. Yeah, so I'm very familiar with Tim and Signatures for Soldiers.
So I've supported Tim since I want to say
Yeah,
2014,
yeah,
2015 at least, maybe 2014 if he was still in the infancy stages then. And I know from intimate conversations and conversations on our show and on the
yeah,
stage at the National, the biggest logjam is always the listing and fulfilling. Because Tim, like you mentioned, works, he has a
yeah,
full-time plus job, he has a family. Um, and this is passion for him, and he's making a huge difference. So, ISO as a tool on ISO, Tim has the signatures for soldiers marketplace. And what it can enable is, John, if you said, hey, Tim, I've got these 10 cards, I'm going to send them to you. And Tim says, I'm overwhelmed and I can't do it. Go list
just
them on this website.
yeah,
You can now list those cards.
and
And
they can benefit from the sale when that occurs.
yeah, you handle the shipping, but the proceeds, like
Yeah,
the proceeds branch out and go directly to them since they're a registered 501c3 now. We're able to do
yeah,
that. So you can actually make Tim's life easier, and everybody could. So if nothing else, like that, I want to see that marketplace explode because they're at like 211,000 maybe last update I saw. And I remember
yeah,
when they hit 100,000 for the first time. I'm like, well, now we have the internet. Like we could do 100,000 in a year easy if we galvanized people to just put listings up and timed auctions to end together. And then all Tim would have to do is email blast supporters and say, hey, look, we've got 100 auctions ending Friday night, go get some bids in, instead of Tim
yeah,
having to go through a warehouse and sort and scan and do all those things. We can all make a difference in this impact organization by doing that. So that's an example of why ISO gets me really excited, is because we can provide a way for someone like Tim to scale an impact that he makes, that is right now bootstrapped by technology, by things that technology can solve.
Yeah. Yeah, no doubt. And now knowing that, that's something I might, I might want to spearhead something,
Right.
and let's do something with that, right? If you have that functionality, and it's already there, and it make anything, if it makes, like you said, Tim's life easier, he does have a full-time job. This is a passion project, as you mentioned. So I'm probably gonna get with Tim and see what we can do. There you go, the
There it
power of
is.
communication, right?
Yeah.
Just kind of coming down the home stretch here, right? It's the question I have to ask, right? Uh, what's the fee structure? How does you have bills to pay on your end? So how, for those interested, and I'll when we wrap up, you can give out all that information too. But how does the fee structure work for those interested
Yeah.
in being part of the platform?
Great question. So if you're an individual seller, so John, if you just said, "Hey, Ivan, I just want to sell stuff on there," it's 8%. That's the platform fee. And then we also use both Stripe or PayPal for payment processing, and that fee is directly passed through. So Stripe is 2.9% plus 30 cents a transaction, and PayPal is 3.49% plus 49 cents a transaction. So it's a little more expensive, but PayPal also opens up quite a few hobby wallets because a lot of people just use that for like,
Yeah,
this is my hobby money. So it's not both of those. It's whichever one the consumer uses to check out. We just don't know in advance if they're going to
yeah.
use PayPal or a credit card. Um, Now, if you are a marketplace, we actually discount the fee. You're considered a pro seller. And so we discount the fee to you to about 5%, which then allows the marketplace to charge anywhere from 1 to 5% to the people selling in it based
Hmm.
on the perceived value or the actual value that they bring. So I'll tell you, there's some marketplaces that are charging that full 5%, and people are happy to sell there because their items are selling and moving.
Yeah,
And when they sell on ISO, they feel more security and more trust that the transaction is going to go through. On the auction side, you actually have to input your credit card before bidding. So there's no like unpaid auctions that happen. So people like selling because of that. So that said, there's also marketplaces that are actually at like 2% that are doing a decent job of marketing also. So if you just want to sell and not build a community, you actually have some incentive to join a marketplace that already exists instead of try to spin up your own, because they'll do promotion for you and it still may be the same or even cheaper than just being an individual seller. Um, I should add, since we just got done talking about SIGs for Soldiers, that because they're a registered 501c3 and because we want to support them, our fee for them is actually our bare minimum we could do, which is 3%. So,
yeah.
um, so when you sell in the SIGs for Soldiers, it's actually even less than that, um,
Yeah.
public marketplace fee. So,
Well, listen, it was awesome catching up with you. It was too long between appearances.
yeah.
Let's make the next one
How
a
long was
short.
this one? I didn't use up all my time. It's not going to be
No,
three
no, you're
years.
good. You're good.
Okay.
We'll have you back in less than two plus years. It's way too long, and maybe with your schedule, too, when you were with GTS,
Yeah.
you were definitely way busier. Well, I don't want to say that, but maybe.
More
But
time constraints. I've got a little
yeah,
bit more
yeah.
flexibility now.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
So let's not make it 2 plus years before we see you again on Sports Card Nation. For those listening that want to find out more, where they can catch you, and then also that ISO information, take your time, Ivan, and put that stuff out there for people to check out.
Yeah, I'm easy to find. My handle on social media is Watch the Breaks. That's my handle. It's finally applicable now that I'm with ISO and we have breaks going 24/7. And then ISO is ISO.gg. ISO.gg. So it's a Web 3.0 handle, little newfangled, but check it out,
Yeah,
ISO.gg. Click around there, bid on some auctions, check out the communities,
and
talk to
I'll
me if you
put
want
it
to form your own.
Yeah, and I'll put it in the show notes too. So if you forgot or you don't remember, check the show
Perfect. You
notes.
don't even need to just turn off your audio and just start clicking the show notes. It's all right there for you. So, John, you're the
Well,
best, man.
well, I appreciate you making some time, and my bad on the distance between appearances. I promise that won't happen again. And hey, few months from now, hey, I'll see you in the flesh. Looking forward to that, and maybe we even walking the show floor
I was
with
just
you.
gonna say we're actually gonna browse the show together. That'll be
Yeah,
a
there,
first, so that'll be
there
fun.
we go.
So,
There we go. So sounds like a plan.
all right.
Ivan, good seeing you. Take care, man, and talk to you soon.